Hey Joe, I looked out the window as we drove past the Oakland Zoo. I was almost home. I've been sitting in this bus for over 5 hours. It was not much further to my home in Oakland where I could finally relax and once again see my wife Susie after 6 months. I'm 27-year-old Senior Airman Joe Thomas. Or I was an active duty Senior Airman up until a few hours ago. I have just completed my 4-year enlistment of active duty in the U.S. Air Force as a fighter aircraft integrated avionics technician, basically the guy that keeps the electronic systems functioning for the aircraft. I've just returned from my third and final 6-month deployment overseas. This time it was again to the Ramstein Air Force Base in southwestern Germany. I landed a few hours ago in California at the Edwards Air Force Base and decided to catch the bus home through the California countryside. After being on transports from Germany, I wanted to relax and watch the world go by as I headed home. Also, part of the reason was that I wanted some time to contemplate my future. With my active service now over, I need to decide what my future career will be. My father, Bill Thomas, has been an electrical contractor for most of his life, running the family business in Oakland for many years. When I left high school, both myself and my twin brother John did our apprenticeships under Dad. I then left to join the Air Force once I was a qualified electrician, with my brother staying behind to help Mom and Dad run the business. I'm in two minds about going back to working there. I'm just thinking about doing something new, something different. I would have an open offer to work for the family business, of course, and it would be good seeing Mom, Dad, Susie, and John regularly again. However, the thought of going back to crawling through house ceilings and dealing with clueless homeowners again was something I would rather avoid. Then there is my wife, Susie, the girl I began dating whilst doing my apprenticeship and got married a year after I joined the Air Force. Our marriage isn't what I'd hoped it would be, slowly going from good to bad. The 6 months prior to my current deployment started out fine, but I felt like we were slowly drifting apart during that period. Being away for the last 6 months after that has probably not helped either. Perhaps I can put it down to the fact that we've been married for 3 years now, and together for over 5. So maybe the newness of our relationship has begun to lose some of its excitement. The real question is, how do I get that feeling back? Susie also works for the family business. Basically, she helps my mom manage the business, doing the financials, arranging jobs, along with selling, ordering, and stocking the electrical gear, while Dad, John, and the other electricians go do the jobs with the customers. I'm not sure how she would feel about me choosing to not go back to the business, instead doing something new. I always thought that she only accepted the job just so she had family around while I was away, even if it was my family and not hers. Susie was originally from the Midwest, moving to the Bay Area for college doing a business degree. I'm not sure if Dad's business would be half as successful now without Susie. While Mom might officially be the business manager, we all know that it's Susie that now runs the show. After catching a connecting bus that stopped a few blocks from my house, I decided to walk the rest of the way with my duffel bag in hand, arriving at my doorstep at 4 p.m. I'm not sure if Susie will be home, as my planned transport into Travis Air Force Base meant I wasn't due home until about 7 p.m., with Susie to pick me up from Fairfield when I arrived. I was lucky enough to get an earlier transport to Edwards, however, and that gave me the time to catch the bus across California this afternoon instead. Entering the house, it looks much the same as when I had left 6 months ago. I walked into the bedroom to drop off my duffel bag and noticed that the bed was a mess, sheets strewn across the floor. I could hear the shower running, so maybe Susie was home after all. I walked into the bathroom and could see her showering in the middle of washing her hair. I stood there for a few moments to enjoy the view of my wife in front of me. Susie is about 5'A" with brown eyes, a short brunette bob-style haircut with nice legs and a round behind. "Are you getting ready to come pick me up?" Susie jumped, letting out a small scream in the process. "My goodness. You scared me half to death. What are you doing home already?" "I got an early transport, and here I am. I'll be out shortly, okay? I was going to join you. I've spent the best part of the last 24 hours traveling. I'll be done soon, then you can have the shower to yourself." What, no welcome back hug? It didn't even sound like Susie was happy to see me. I left the bathroom, collected my clothes out of my bag, and took them to the laundry. By the time I started the washing machine and left the laundry room, Susie came walking out into the lounge room in a bathrobe with her hair in a towel. "So are you really done with the Air Force? They didn't get you to sign back up again?" "They tried, but no, My active duty is done. Can they bring you back in? If there's a war, they can, for the next 4 years anyway. Susie nodded at me, then turned and made her way towards the bedroom. I walked into the kitchen to get a glass of water. This wasn't the sort of homecoming from Susie I was hoping for. I was hoping for at least a hug. She was acting as if I had just returned from the store, not a 6-month deployment overseas. This wasn't like Susie at all. I followed her to our bedroom, standing in the doorway watching her hastily collecting the sheets off the floor and tidying the bedroom. Susie eventually noticed me standing there. "Are you going to just stand there, or are you going to help me?" I didn't make the mess, just how did the room end up looking like a tornado hit it? "Have you been sleeping restlessly? And in the middle of the day?" Susie glared at me for a few moments. "I was running late for work this morning. I got home early so I could get ready for you to come home. And yet you're not excited at all to see me." Susie didn't respond to that as she continued to make up the bed, so I turned and walked back out to the lounge, sitting down on the couch. I'm not saying I suspect Susie of fooling around on me while I was away. Our relationship seemed to be getting cooler already before I went to Germany. But to have her act like she didn't care that I was home after 6 months was worrying. I decided to lay back on the couch and not think about it. Within moments, I drifted off to sleep. Joe, dinner will be ready shortly. Go and have a shower." I woke from my slumber. It was already dark outside, so I must have slept for a few hours. I got up and made my way to the bathroom and started the shower. I undressed and then stood under the hot water. It made me feel fresh and relaxed. When I walked back out to the dining room, Susie had set out the table and was placing our meals down. It was porterhouse steaks with mash, my favorite. That smells good. "Welcome home, Joe." "Thanks. We've got some ice cream for dessert as well." I looked up at Susie with a smile on my face as I began to enjoy my meal. "Why didn't you call me from Fairfield? I would have picked you up." "I didn't fly into Travis. I landed this morning at Edwards instead, so I got the bus all the way here." "I figured you'd be at work still." "Did you come straight home, or did you stop in to see your mom and dad?" "No, straight home to the warm embrace of my loving wife." "I'm sorry I had all these plans for tonight and you surprised me." "I didn't mean to not say hello properly." "That's okay, we can make up for it after dinner. I have 6 months of missing you to catch up on." Susie continued eating her meal. She rarely looked me in the eyes, though, and seemed deep in thought. "Are you still enjoying working with my family?" "You don't have to anymore now that I'm done with the Air Force." "No. I like working there. I would have told you if I wasn't." "Don't you want me to stay there?" "I don't mind you working there. I just thought that maybe you wanted to work there while I was away all the time. But now that I'm back, you can choose whatever you want to do. I'm fine where I am. Your mom's great to work with." "And Dad and John? They still look after you as well?" "Yes, of course. Your dad relies on Betty and me totally. John is always just as sweet as ever, too. The other guys know I'm the boss, so they treat me well, or else." We finished our meal, then sat in the lounge room eating our ice cream. I was sitting back on the couch, with Susie taking the recliner rather than sitting beside me. Why was I getting the feeling she was avoiding me? After finishing our ice cream, Susie reached for the TV remote. "Susie, can you leave it off? Come and sit with me, please. I want us to spend some quality time together." Susie hesitantly walked over and sat beside me on the couch, but instead of sitting back and snuggling in with me, she sat near the edge of the couch, forcing me to pull her in towards me. I leaned in for a hug. Even that felt like I was hugging my sister rather than my partner of 3 years. "What's going on, Susie? What do you mean?" "Come on. I know when you're giving me the cold shoulder. I've been away for 6 months, and you haven't hugged me once since I've been home. I even tried to guilt trip you into giving me a hug earlier, and now you don't want to sit with me, or cuddle, or hug. So, what's going on?" "I just need time to get used to having you home again, I guess." "No way. You never needed time before. What's different?" Susie didn't answer, looking away from me. "Have you been seeing someone?" Susie gave me an angry stare and got to her feet. I thought she was going to talk, but instead bit her tongue and walked off towards the bedroom. "Where are you going? Can't you even answer that simple question?" I heard our bedroom door slam shut. I took a few deep breaths and then followed her to the bedroom, not sure if I should apologize or ask her to answer the damn question. I found that she had locked the bedroom door. "Susie, what are you doing? Can you open the door so we can talk about this?" All I got back was silence. I walked back out into the lounge and laid on the couch. I wasn't sure what to think. Was Susie pissed with me because I asked her if she was cheating, or was she pissed because I'm right and I called her on it? Either way, this conversation is definitely not over. I turned on the TV to take my mind away from her, watching the news for a while before drifting off to sleep again. As I woke up with the morning sun streaming into the lounge room, I stretched and then made my way to the kitchen to make myself a coffee. I figured I should at least ask Susie if she'd like one as well, so I wandered down the hallway to the bedroom. The door was open at least, but there was no Susie. I checked the bathroom, then went back out to the lounge. I looked out the window to see that her car was gone. Has she left for work already? I checked my phone to see that it was almost 8 a.m. by my standards that was sleeping in. I made my coffee but decided I would go out for breakfast before going to see Mom and Dad at the family business downtown. I went into the garage to find my pickup covered in dust. I had asked Susie to drive it once in a while when I was overseas, but it didn't look like she had done that. I crossed my fingers and hit the ignition. Nothing. I'm going to need a jump start. Luckily, where my house is, the road has a slight decline heading away from the intersection, so I pushed my pickup out onto the road, then began pushing downhill. When I got enough speed up, I jumped in, threw it into second gear, and dropped the clutch. She fired up, thank goodness. I figured I better head to a garage to check it over, and they could help if I need another start. After the garage, I got a syrup waffle at a cafe near my parents' business, then parked out front of Thomas Electrical. As I walked in, there was a young guy behind the counter. He must be one of the new employees they brought on. "Can I help you, sir?" "No thanks, I'm fine," I responded as I headed to the service door to go out back to the storeroom, workshop, and office area. "Sorry, you can't go back there. That's for staff only." "It's okay, I'm Joe Thomas." "You're Bill's son? From the Air Force?" "Yeah. Are my family out back?" "Yep. I think they're all here right now, thanks." I stepped through the door and looked around the large workshop and storeroom area. I could see a few of the guys that have worked here for a while collecting gear off the racks. At the end of the storeroom, I saw Susie in a discussion with my twin brother John. While John and I are twins, we're not identical twins. That is, we are from different eggs, so more like regular brothers than like identical twins. We don't even look the same. I'm 6'8" with a solid build, sandy-colored hair with bluish-gray eyes. I got Dad's build but my mom's hair and eyes. John, on the other hand, is about 5'A", a leaner build with dark brown hair and eyes. So his build is more like Mom's, but his hair and eyes he got from Dad. What was interesting is that it didn't seem like they were talking shop. It looked like a private conversation, and I noticed that John would occasionally rub Susie's arm or shoulder as they spoke. As I was about to head into the office, I saw Susie and John hug each other. Maybe he was consoling her for my questioning her loyalty last night. When I entered the office, my mom looked happy when she saw me and came over to give me a hug. "It's so good to have you home, sweetheart. So, is it true? Are you done with the Air Force now?" "Yeah, I didn't renew." "How are you, Mom? Are you keeping Dad and everyone else in line?" Mom laughed at that question. "You know your dad will do whatever he wants. You're just like him." As I let go of Mom, my dad stepped up and hugged me as well. Now, hugs from Dad are pretty rare, so I knew he was happy to have me home. "Good to see you, boy. Welcome home." "Good to be home for good, Dad." "How was Germany this time? Did you enjoy it, or was it becoming a bit too routine for you?" "It was good. The guys there were great too." "I missed all you guys though, for sure. What are you going to do now?" "No regrets, or will you think about re-enlisting again later?" "No regrets, not yet anyway. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. Might take a few days to think about it." "Well, you know you have a job here whenever you want it." "Don't push him, Bill. He doesn't need to come back to work here. We talked about this. This is his business too, Betty. It's not just for John." It seems that this conversation has stumbled into something that has been brewing between Mom and Dad previously. I hadn't mentioned to anyone that I wasn't planning on working here, so I'm not sure why they would have been discussing it. It's okay, we can talk about what I'm going to do later. I'm just happy to be home right now. The office door opened and John stepped inside, with Susie following him. "Hey Joe, good to see you home." John walked over and gave me a quick hug. Hey little bro, how have you been? Got yourself a good woman yet? John gave an uncomfortable laugh to that question. He always had trouble picking up girls ever since we were in high school. He always relied on me to meet a girl, then he would try to get with their friends while they hung out with us. But since I got with Susie and stopped providing him with opportunities, his love life has dried up over the last few years. He was more reserved than I was and rarely liked to try anything new. The friends we had growing up were always my friends first, and John would then be friends with them by default. Whatever sport I chose, classes I picked, John would follow. I think a big part of why I joined the Air Force was because I knew that was something John would not do. He would never be posted with me, so what would be the point? For once I was able to be my own person without having my brother dragging along behind me. So are you going to re-sign with the Air Force, or are you thinking about coming back to work with us? Neither. I might do something different, I haven't decided yet. John nodded at that response before Dad interjected. Hey Joe, what have you got planned for today? Nothing yet, why? Well, how about you come and spend the day with me? I got a job on I could use your help with, and we can catch up too. Sure Dad, why not? Just give me 10 minutes to collect the gear together and I'll meet you at the back loading bay. Sure thing. As Dad went out to the storeroom, John also followed. Susie and Mom went over to sit at their desks when I realized that Susie still had not said anything to me yet this morning. In fact, she had not said anything to me since I asked her if she was cheating on me last night. I walked over to Susie's desk and crouched down beside her and spoke with a quiet voice. Can we talk? Or are you going to pretend I'm not here? I'm not sure if we have anything to talk about. Oh, we have lots to talk about. I just think you don't want to talk is all. Susie gave me a cold, determined stare. Not until you apologize. I'm happy to apologize, as long as you can answer the question and explain why you've acted this way since I got home. Hell, I saw you having a deeper and more affectionate conversation with John just before than you have with me since I returned. Do you still even want to be my partner? Again, she gave me a stare before answering. Just because I didn't rush you into the bedroom for intimacy doesn't mean I'm cheating on you. But you didn't want to give me any affection at all, either. Like we aren't even together. Care to explain why? I said I need some time to readjust. Readjust from what? So I'll ask again, what's going on, Susie? Nothing. Bill will be waiting for you and I've got work to do. Please just go. I stood up, knowing I wasn't about to get an answer from her right now. I made my way outside to the truck as Dad was putting the last of the gear in the back. You ready, Joe? Yeah, let's go. We got to the job site. It was a renovation, but the house had basically been gutted. Dad was there to install all new wiring throughout. We got the tools and gear out and headed in. There were carpenters and laborers on site as well. And the foreman greeted us on the way in. At least we weren't having to deal with the homeowners. Dad had already started work here yesterday, so we were partway done. I started wiring for the outlets while Dad continued with the wiring for the lights. After about 2 hours, we took a break for lunch, sitting on the back tray of Dad's truck. Here, have half of my sandwiches. Your mom always makes too much for me. Thanks. We sat there eating our food, watching the other guys walk in and out of the house. This morning, Mom said something about me not coming back to work here, that you guys had been discussing it. What was all that about? My dad looked over at me, then shook his head a little. Your mom thinks it might be better if you weren't working with us, that it's John's best opportunity to do well. I disagreed. This is as much your business as it is John's. What? Does Mom think I'm holding him back by being here or something? She feels that right now he's happy. She thinks it's his best chance to have a good job, a family, a happy life. What's that got to do with whether I'm working with you guys? She worries that he won't have that if you're here. Geez, I knew he was her favorite, but for her to say she wants me out of the way just so he can be happy, really? Yeah, I know. We've argued about it a lot already. I'm not happy with their situation at all. I don't think it's right. Wait, what situation are we talking about? Dad looked at me with a puzzled look on his face. Then an expression across his face that looked like shock. Oh no, you have no idea, do you? About what? Mom? John? What are we talking about? Dad looked away, shaking his head, then looked back at me. I shouldn't be the one explaining any of this. I thought you already knew. She told us you guys had talked about it. What was Mom meant to talk to me about? I'm not following. Not Betty, Susie. She told us you knew. For goodness sake, Dad, just tell me what the heck you're talking about. Susie and John, they've been together since you left for Germany. She said you two had broken up before you left. What the heck? No, we never broke up. I sat there for a few moments, stunned by Dad's revelation. I've been scratching my head since I got home because she's been acting cold towards me. And now you're telling me she's with my brother? Dad didn't say anything, just looked at me shaking his head. It was clear he wasn't happy being put in this position. And both you and Mom knew that John has been with my wife while I'm overseas and you were okay with that. No, I wasn't. At first your mom was upset too, but she eventually came around and was happy for them. So, have they been sneaking around or even trying to keep it a secret? Does everyone at the store know about them? Yeah, everyone knows. Heck, John is the lowest piece of trash I've ever known. He knows I had no idea about this, and he comes in and gives me a hug this morning like nothing's going on. I'm sorry you had to find out this way. Susie said you two had decided to separate when you left for Germany. I mean, her and John have been best friends since before you left. We just thought they got together after you left because they were both lonely. No, it just means John has been trying to steal my wife for some time now. I can't believe that jerk would do this to me. No, wait, yes, I can. Remember Maddie? She was my first serious girlfriend and I was so in love with her. She told me John had crossed boundaries and tried to mess with her at a party one night. I refused to believe her, so she broke up with me. Then Jane, I know he messed with her after we broke up, and she later told me he was always hitting on her while we were together. That jerk always wants to have what I have. I think he always looks up to you, Joe. More like he's always been jealous of me. So Mom thinks it's better for me to leave so John can have my wife and the family business? Does she think I should give him my house, my truck, and all my money too? Would that make her happy? Your mom didn't know they were lying to her. She thought you'd left Susie and she sees her like her own daughter. She thought that maybe they could be happy together, but that you'd make it difficult if you were going to be working with them every day. Heck, John, that jerk is dead to me now. Come on, Joe, he's still your brother. I know you're angry and have every right to be, but over time I'm sure this will all work out for the best. Besides, it was just as much Susie's fault as it is John's. No, John's my brother, my twin brother. If anyone should have my back, it should be him. I'll never forgive him for this, not for the rest of our lives. As for Susie, well, she really messed up. I asked her last night if she had been cheating on me because of the way she was acting when I got home. She had the audacity to ask me to apologize this morning. I'm sorry about all this, Joe. This is a complete mess. So tell me, Dad, when you get back to the store, what are you going to say to John and Susie now that you know the truth? Nothing. I think I'd lose my temper way too much. I gave them both a piece of my mind when I found out they were together after you left, and that was when I thought you and Susie were separated. I still thought that was wrong. Your bed was still warm when she let him jump in there. And you're still married. They could have at least waited until you two got divorced. I drank some water as I contemplated what I should do now. I was angry as heck, but at least one thing they teach you in training is how to keep your head when you're emotional. I thought back to yesterday as I entered my home, that I was blissfully unaware just how messed up my life was. I remembered my bedroom, that awful person. I bet they just finished doing something inappropriate before I got home. That's why she was shocked to see me. She probably didn't know if I'd seen John leaving when I arrived. You okay to keep working? I'll understand if you need some time. I'm going to go, Dad. I need some time to think about all this. Joe, don't do anything stupid, all right? If you're worried about me hurting John or Susie, don't worry. I'm not going to mess up my life getting even with them. They're not worth it. Those two lying people can have each other for all I care. Call me later, Joe, just so I know where you are and that you're all right, okay? Yeah, I will, Dad. I walked off down the road in the direction of the store so I could get my truck. Well, this really wasn't the homecoming I was expecting. When I got to the business, I was planning on just driving away, but I couldn't. I walked around back and entered the office where my mom and Susie were working. Mom looked up and saw me. Have you guys finished that job already? No, Dad is still there. I just came back to talk to my wife. the one that's been cheating on me with my own brother. What are you talking about? You two aren't together anymore. No, Mom, I just found out about this lying person and my backstabbing brother. We were never separated. They lied to you and Dad. Isn't that true, Susie? How could you do this to me with my own brother? Susie didn't answer. Instead, she ran out of the office, no doubt to John. You still want to get rid of me, Mom, so John can have my wife and the business. I didn't know, Joe. I thought you'd left Susie. That's what they told me. Why didn't you talk to me about it whenever I called you? Both you and Dad never mentioned Susie and John once. We thought talking about them would upset you, that you probably just needed time to move on. Well, at least you know now that you can't trust them. Have fun relying on them for the business. I turned and walked out of the office. I wasn't sure if I was angrier at my mom or at Susie. The moment I stepped out of the office, John was approaching me. Step away, John, if you know what's good for you. You need to leave, Joe, and don't come back. This isn't your place anymore. With that comment, I stepped forward and punched him in the face, dropping him with a single punch. John never could fight. That was always another thing he relied on me for. I stood over him as he cowered on the ground, blood coming from his nose. You're dead to me, John, you understand? You're no longer my brother. Don't ever call me. Don't ever contact me. If you see me, walk the other way. As for Susie, I don't give a care what you two do, but she has to get her stuff out of my house today. She better not be there when I get home later. I stepped over him and walked out of the store and got into my truck. It's been 3 months since I found out about Susie and John. She moved into John's place, and I decided to sell our house. It had too many memories of Susie for me to stay living there. The house sold quickly and was enough for us to pay off the mortgage and for me to have a bit left over after splitting the rest with her. I decided to rent an apartment in South San Francisco to be near the international airport and the aviation businesses close by. I landed a job with one of the larger aviation technical support firms within a week. Apparently my skills are in demand, which is nice, although I'll have to learn a bit about commercial jets after being trained on fighters. I was finally feeling settled in, a new place, a new job with a good team. Maybe now I could get on with my life. Mom and Dad came to visit after I settled in, and I even made peace with Mom about what had happened. Both Susie and John were still working with them, however. Mom had since reduced some of Susie's responsibilities within the business. It was a Friday afternoon, and as I was finishing up work, some of the guys asked me to join them for a Friday night of dinner and drinks in downtown South City. I happily agreed. We all met at a restaurant at 7 p.m., grabbing some food before we got too deep into the drinks. By 8:30 p.m., we headed down Grand Avenue to the nearest bar to truly kick off the evening. While the guys ordered a round, I went to use the restroom, and on my way back, I accidentally bumped into a woman coming out of the ladies' room. Sorry about that. That's all right, she replied as she turned her head towards me. Maddie. Oh my gosh, Joe, how are you? Maddie quickly gave me a hug. It's been probably 8 years since we last saw each other after we left high school. Maddie was the girl I fell for at 18. She was my first real love in my life. She was also the first girlfriend that my brother tried to deceive me with. You look great, Maddie. Even better than in high school. Do you live in South City too? Or just visiting? I live in San Bruno near the airport. That's where I work, right next door. I'm here with a group of guys that I work with. You work at SFO? I work there too? For real? What do you do? I manage a travel agency. What about you? I'm an avionics technician. How did you get into that? I thought you'd be working with your dad's electrical business. I did an apprenticeship with him, but I joined the Air Force once I was qualified. And you're not in the Air Force anymore? No, I completed my 4-year enlistment. I'm happy to be a Civvy again now. Okay, and I heard you got married too. Yeah, I was, but not anymore. We're separated. How about you? There's no way you'd still be single. I am actually, but like you, I'm separated as well, about 6 months now. I nodded at Maddie. All of my memories and feelings for her were flooding my mind. For me, she was always the one that got away. Beautiful, smart, and cheeky as heck. I'm sorry, I'm probably keeping you from your date. He'll come looking for you soon. You're still so smooth, Joe. I'm not here with a date, just a few girlfriends. Are they single too? What? Are you tired of me already? No, never. A few of the guys I'm with are single as well. Why don't we get our friends together and we can all have a good night? That actually sounds good. We're just sitting out at the front table. I'm sure we can bring another table over. All right, I'll drag the guys over. We made our way back to our respective tables, where I found a beer waiting for me. Took you long enough, Joe? Were you taking forever? Mike asked me. Nah, I just met an old girlfriend on the way back. The guys I am sitting with are Mike, Brian, Jay, and Teddy. Teddy was the oldest and our team lead. A married man with lots of experience on the job. Like me, he is a former Air Force too. The other three all do the same job as myself, and they are all single as far as I know. So, does she have friends then? Jay asked. She does, and I already arranged for us to join them. They're sitting at the front table over there. The guys looked over at the three attractive women sitting at the table. I could see the smiles appearing across my friends' faces. Darn, they look good. What do you think, Teddy? Joe might need a promotion after this. I'm a married man, remember. You guys can buy Joe a beer to show your gratitude. Not me, I already have a girl. But for you three guys, it could be your lucky night. Brian added in. All right, let's stop staring at them and go over and join them. Just remember Mike and Jay. Maddie's the pretty blonde with a great personality and she's for me. You can choose who you like out of the other two. Deal. Mike replied as we all walked over to the table. Hey, Maddie. Hi, Joe. Can you guys grab the other table and chairs over there and bring them over? As we positioned the two tables together, Maddie started the introductions. I'm Maddie. This is Bethany and Kyra. Hey, ladies. I'm Joe. This is Jay, Mike, Brian, and our boss, Teddy. So exactly how do you know Joe, Maddie? Kyra asked. He was the first person I ever fell in love with. We were high school sweethearts. That got gasps from both Kyra and Bethany. So, are you single, Joe? Kyra followed up with. Yes, he is, and don't even think about trying to play matchmaker with us. He's got some serious making up to do first. Maddie responded for me with a smile on her face. Oh, sounds like you messed up last time, bro, Jay added. Yeah, I did. Big time. I looked at Maddie, who was sitting beside me. She leaned over to whisper to me. Are you just saying that, or did you finally realize I was telling the truth about John? I just recently realized it. He's the reason I'm separated from my wife. I did think of you and what I said to you back then, after I realized the type of person John really is. I regret it so much, not believing you. I whispered back to Maddie. Well, we were young, and he was your brother. You can try and make it up to me, though, if you like. I would like, very much. Maddie then gave me a quick hug. Wow, that was quick, Maddie. What did he say to get back in your good books so fast? Bethany asked. I don't hug and tell. Besides, Joe was always the smoothest person I've ever met. Really? Was he your first love too? Kyra asked with a massive grin across her face. Kyra, that's a bit personal in front of all these guys we just met. Just spill it, Maddie. All right, yes, he was. Happy now? Maddie replied while laughing. What about you, Joe? Was Maddie your first love too? Yeah, she was the first and the best. I replied, getting back slaps from a few of the guys. Is it getting hot in here all of a sudden? Mocked Bethany, fanning her face with her hand. All right, enough about Joe and me. Who are the single guys here? I need you to keep these two ladies occupied. That would be Jay and Mike. Good luck with them, ladies. Teddy stated while shaking his head laughing. The next hour or two flew by. We were all relaxed and having a good time. Jay and Mike seemed to actually be doing well with Bethany and Kyra, and Teddy and Brian were enjoying themselves as well. For me, I was enjoying talking with Maddie. She makes me feel so relaxed. I'm sure I've had a goofy smile plastered across my face the entire time. I later excused myself to go to the restroom, and Maddie did likewise. When I was done, I waited for Maddie in the hallway leading back from the restrooms. As she came out, she came over and stood beside me, leaning against the wall. It's so good to see you again, Joe. I mean that. Me too. I forgot how much I loved hanging out with you, just being with you. I know, right? Maybe it's like what they say about your first real love, that you have a connection that you carry with you for the rest of your life. Maybe. I'd sure like to test that theory, though. Wow, Joe, you really are smooth. You can start by giving me your number, then asking me out to dinner. What if I want to start by giving you a hug first? Maddie looked into my eyes and gave me a mischievous giggle. Okay, Joe. We can start with that. I leaned in and gave Maddie my first real hug since we were in high school senior year. It was better than I remembered it. Maddie placed her hand on the side of my face and placed her other arm around my back. I continued the hug as I wrapped my arms around her in a tight embrace. Wow, this felt good. When we broke our hug, we stared into each other's eyes. Wow, that was so good. You've still got it, Joe. I think that was all you, Maddie. Goodness, I need some more. As I went in for another hug. This time Maddie broke the hug off a bit earlier. You said a hug, not lots of them. We need to go back to the table before I lose all control. Do we have to? If it was up to me, I'd be taking you home right now. Steady there, Tiger, you can take me for dinner first. I'm not that kind of girl. Maddie replied with a mischievous giggle. All right, but can I get another hug before the end of the night? Yes, you can, I promise. We went back out to join the others. I was buzzing all over and couldn't get the hug with Maddie from my mind. Over the next hour, we all continued to chat, with us going up to dance as well, pairing off as couples. Jay with Bethany, Mike with Kyra, with Teddy having already left for home to his wife and kids. Brian followed shortly after, just leaving the three couples alone. It was about 1 a.m., and I was up dancing to a slow song with Maddie when she told me that her and the girls were going to go home after this song. Remember that you promised me another hug before you left tonight? That's why I'm giving you an advance warning, so you have time. I looked into Maddie's gorgeous blue eyes and leaned in for my hug. As our lips parted, I opened my eyes to stare back into Maddie's. She seemed breathless, not saying anything, no giggle or mischievous response that was usual for her. Maddie pulled my head towards her as she hugged me again. My goodness, if you could ever connect with someone so quickly in the space of a few hours we had. Maybe it was due to our history together. Maybe we still had strong unresolved feelings for each other. Either way, I was hooked already. You better call me Joe, I mean it. That's one thing you'll never have to worry about. I can't wait to see you again, and you haven't even left yet. Maddie rested her head on my chest as we slowly danced for the remainder of the song. As it ended, we made our way back to our table. Jay and Bethany were already at the table hugging each other when we got back, with Mike and Kyra following us back from the dance floor. This night was turning into the surreal. Surely we couldn't have three couples all getting together in the one night. We all finally made our way out to the front waiting for cabs. We were still paired off having our separate little conversations. The first cab pulled up for the three girls, and Maddie gave me a quick hug and a reminder to call her before jumping in with Bethany and Kyra. I was left standing there with Jay and Mike. Joe, I owe you big time for this. Bethany's terrific, we got another date already. Jay said. Me too. Kyra's the one that asked me out. I was way too nervous to ask in case she'd say no. Mike responded. Glad I could help, guys. Tonight's been great. Better than I could ever had hoped for. Saturday morning and I was feeling a little hungover, but not too bad. I thought about last night and about Maddie. I couldn't get her out of my mind already. I showered, got dressed and headed out to a cafe not far from my apartment to get a coffee and waffles. As I sat there having my breakfast and thinking about Maddie, my phone buzzed with a call. Hello. Hi, Joe. I just realized I never gave you my number last night. I just got yours. So, make sure you save this, okay? I sure will. Actually, I was just thinking about you. No, that's a lie. I've been thinking about you all morning. But I was thinking about you just now, too. Really, are you infatuated with me already, Joe Thomas? If we were in Salem in the 1600s, I'd have you dragged away as a witch for putting a love spell on me. Oh my goodness, have you been practicing that line? As Maddie laughed into the phone. Did you like it? Yes, I did. Well, if I'm a witch and have you under my spell, I could command you to do whatever I wanted, right? Absolutely. Well then, I command you to pick me up at my place to take me to lunch later this morning. Done. Text me your address and what time and I'll be there. I will. And Joe, thanks for last night. I haven't felt this happy for so long. I know the feeling. It seems like I've hit a reset button on my life. I've got new place, a new job, new friends, and hopefully someone new and special to share it with. If I find out who she is, I'll scratch her eyes out. Maddie responded with an evil giggle. What? As I laughed back at her unexpected response. Well, we're not new, but I'm hoping that maybe we can make it special this time. I'll take that. All right, my waffles are getting cold. Don't forget to text me your address. I'll do it right now. See you soon, Joe. Bye, Maddie. I arrived at Maddie's apartment building, and I couldn't see any spare parking spots out front. Luckily, I saw Maddie come walking out the building's front door, so I honked my horn and waved. She looked great in a light blue floral summer dress. It balanced well with her tanned skin and long blonde hair. I still hoped she had those amazing cheerleader legs and behind like I remembered, which complimented her. It was always Maddie's pretty face that drew guys' attention, but for me it was her behind and those legs that initially got mine. I always thought that Maddie was definitely the hottest cheerleader at our high school, and I was the luckiest guy in the football team to be dating her. Most of my teammates thought so too. She jumped into my very clean pickup truck. I just spent the last 2 hours this morning cleaning it up for her. She leaned over and gave me a hug. So, where are you taking me for lunch, Joe? How does Pedro Point sound? We can grab some food on the way, then sit out overlooking the ocean. It's a bit of a walk though. Sounds perfect. As we walked out along the trail leading to the overlook, I reached out taking Maddie by the hand as she looked up and smiled at me as I did that. We sat down on some grass at the end of the trail, looking out over the Pacific Ocean. What a fantastic view it was, as we sat there for a few minutes in silence, just taking it all in. I pulled out our lunch from my knapsack, and we began talking as we ate the sandwiches we had bought on the way. I was expecting you to take me to a nice restaurant or a cafe, but this is so much better. I'm happy you liked the choice. I wanted to do something we would remember. Just going somewhere to eat wouldn't cut it. Maddie rested her head on my shoulder. You're making me nervous, Joe. What do you mean? Well, just a day ago I had no idea where you were or what you were doing. Today I'm finding it hard imagining not being with you. This is all happening way too fast. I don't want to get hurt again. I'm sorry about what happened between us. I should have believed you. No, not that. I meant getting hurt after what I went through with my marriage. I've only really put that all behind me a few months ago, and now I'm here with you. I can't do a casual relationship with you, Joe, either. It's all or nothing when it comes to us, and that scares me. What scares you? Falling in love again. It doesn't scare you. Knowing what it's like when you're in love and it all goes wrong. I know what that's like, but I'm not going to let it stop me. The relationship I had with my ex-wife won't be anything like the one we have. You're so very different from her. We're so different together to what myself with my ex were. What about your ex? Are you going to say that I remind you of him? No, not at all. I always wished he was more like you, or what I remembered about you. But what if you're not who I remember you were? What if you end up being more like him than I'd like? Well, I don't know your ex. I don't know what happened between you two. But in my head, I'm still very much that same high school kid that fell for you. I've got a few more scars and experiences since then, some good, some bad. I'm still the same person though. I'm still hopeful of having a great life and sharing it with someone I love. All right, but if you hurt me again, I'm not going to give you a third chance. I won't need a third chance, I promise. Maddie lifted her head up and we hugged softly. After lunch, we went back to Maddie's apartment to hang out. Well, make out would better describe it. I didn't push for us to be intimate. Maddie had already stated how nervous she was about how quickly things were moving, so I decided I would take it slow and let her set the pace for how soon we moved forward. For Saturday night, Maddie had plans to go to the movies with Bethany, so we ended up double dating with Maddie and myself, and Bethany and Jay. I didn't stay the night. And on Sunday, I went around to my parents for lunch, first making sure John and Susie would not be there. During the following week, I took Maddie out for dinner twice. On Friday night, we all went out together again. Well, the three couples anyway. It wasn't even 10 p.m. yet when Maddie leaned over to me while we were sitting at our table. Joe, can you take me home? Are you feeling okay? Is something wrong? No, nothing's wrong. Just the opposite. I want you to take me home. I looked into Maddie's eyes, raising my eyebrows. Are you sure? Yes, very. Maddie then hugged me softly. We got up as I announced to our 4 friends that we were heading home. I think they all understood, and no one raised any objections to us leaving so early. When we got back to Maddie's place, I followed her into the lounge room. Take a seat on the couch, Joe. I'll be right back out. Did you want a drink of something, Maddie? No, I'm good. Help yourself if you want something, though. I thought about it but decided against any more alcohol fearing performance issues. I hadn't had that much to drink so far tonight, but maybe it's best just to drink some water. I went back out to the couch to get comfortable when Maddie came out of her bedroom. She was wearing a red satin nightgown, a very attractive red satin nightgown. I wasn't sure what she was wearing underneath, but I was hoping to find out very soon. "Oh my goodness, do you have any idea how good you look in that?" "Thanks, Joe. I bought it this week, just for you." "Thanks, really. You look absolutely amazing." As Maddie sat down on the couch beside me, she snuggled up to my side and we both hugged lovingly. Then Maddie broke out with laughter. "What's so funny? I'm trying to be smooth Joe here. It's just, I can't believe I'm feeling so nervous with all these butterflies like I did when we were 18 and about to take our relationship to the next level. I feel like a teenage girl all over again. It's all your fault, Joe." "Don't worry, I feel the same way if that makes you feel better. I was just having performance anxiety before you walked back out, worrying if I've had too much to drink tonight." Maddie smiled at me, gently rubbing the side of my face with her hand. "We've only been together for a week, and I've already fallen for you again, Joe." I hugged Maddie softly. "Me too. I'm so happy to be here with you, Madeline." Maddie giggled as she hugged me back. "Are we on a full name basis now, Joseph?" "Just for tonight, until our wedding day." Maddie froze looking up at me, the smile gone from her face. She suddenly lunged forward and hugged me while pushing me onto my back, sitting atop me. We had a really good time together. "Oh my goodness, that felt so good, Joe. I've missed being close to you so much." I chuckled at her statement. "So, you do only want me for my body, huh?" "No, I want all of you, again and again. I hope you can get ready as quickly as you used to. I don't know, I was 18 then." You only had to look at me with that lovely smile and I was ready to go. I might need a few more minutes now. Maddie gave me a little push so that I rolled off her and onto my back. She turned to face me and rested her head on my chest. "Tell me, Joe, did that feel really good for you too?" I mean, I don't know how to say it. It felt special, Maddie, very special. It was more than just a good time. It's like I was reconnecting with you again. It is hard to describe. As I started to run my fingers through her hair, Maddie lifted her head so that she could look into my eyes. "I can't believe I'm so in love with you already." "You know that, right? I love you too, Maddie. I really do." Over the next few weeks, Maddie and I were inseparable outside of work. I spent many nights at her apartment as it was closer to both our jobs. I even started keeping some work clothes and a toothbrush at her place to make life easier. It was amazing how quickly we fell into our routine. It was like finally being with the other half to yourself, feeling complete. The 12 months or so we were together in high school meant that we already knew each other well, but now that we were more mature and had more life experiences, we were really starting to learn about ourselves on a much deeper level. It was a Tuesday night. We had just returned to Maddie's apartment from being out to dinner. As I sat back on the couch waiting for her to return, I was thinking to myself about just how happy I was feeling right now, being here with her. Maddie came back out wearing an oversized t-shirt that was kind of like wearing a dress. She cuddled up beside me on the couch. "Joe, I was wondering, you don't have to if you don't want to, but if we should talk about what happened in our previous relationships, just so we both know how we got here." "To what end?" "So we can understand what happened, I guess. I don't want us repeating the same mistakes again." "Oh, well, okay. Did you want to go first, or would you like me to?" "You can. I have a feeling your story might be a bit longer than mine." "All right, where would you like me to start?" "Well, how did you meet, and what sort of person was she like? Not how you think of her now, but back then." "Well, we met at a bar when I was a third-year apprentice. She was studying business at Mills College. We were both 21. She seemed nice but not that talkative. I had to do a lot of work to get her to even talk with me. Well, a few drinks anyway. I don't remember thinking she's the one or anything like that. I think we slowly grew on each other over time as we started dating. Anyway, I joined the Air Force after my apprenticeship. I proposed after 6 months of joining, and we were married about 6 months after that. Relationships are hard in the service, especially if your partner doesn't come with you. She had a job in the city, but she was living in our place in Oakland. We had just bought a small 3-bedroom house, so we were apart way more than we were together. But what was she like? What were you two like together? Okay, well, she was determined, more than a little stubborn. I felt that she always found it difficult to express her feelings or emotions. She tended to keep her cards close to her chest, even with me sometimes. But she could be warm and funny when in the right mood, though. I just felt like it was always my job to get her in the right mood. Sometimes I just couldn't be bothered. When I got posted overseas, in a strange way, I think that it initially helped our relationship from being apart, making us miss each other more. When I would get home, we would be great for the first month or so. I could tell she felt lonely when I was away, so I got Mom and Dad to hire her to help manage the business. That way she had family around to make it easier. We needed the two incomes to pay the mortgage, so her being with me overseas wasn't going to work. Although we could have rented our place out and then she could have traveled with me, I guess. When did she start working with your parents? That would have been during my 3rd year in the Air Force, about a year and a half after we were married. Were you around much after that? Is that when you guys started having problems? Yeah, I wasn't around much. I was in Germany for the second half of my 3rd year. Then again for the last 6 months of my final year. That 6 months in between I spent at Edwards with one of the test squadrons, so I would come home only for the weekends. Did she start getting closer to John during that time? Yeah, I guess so. I mean, they always got along fine, but I never suspected there was anything else happening. While I was working at Edwards, our relationship was starting to be in trouble. In hindsight, I think that was probably because John was making moves on her at work. So do you think that maybe she thought she could switch brothers to the one that was going to be home all the time? Well, foolish timing if it was that simple. She knew my enlistment was nearing the end and I never said I would re-enlist. So she basically started seeing John when I had only 6 months left. Maybe she just fell for him. He can be very persuasive. It didn't work on you though, did it? No, but I wasn't away from you most of the time and around John all of the time. Still, I wouldn't have because I loved you and it would have been so wrong. I mean, I was so grossed out when he was hitting on me that night at the party, but I was a little drunk, so he just kept trying to take advantage of me because I didn't straight out tell him to leave me alone. Why didn't you? He was your brother. I knew he was a bit drunk too, and I thought he was just being rude at the beginning. But then it started to get out of control. You told me he kept touching you. What was he actually doing? He would come up from behind me and touch me. Then he would hug me to prevent me from getting away even as I was telling him to stop. Everyone just thought it was funny, and we were playing around. I mean, there were other people there fooling around as well. I remember being so angry that you weren't there because there's no way John would have been trying that stuff if you were around. I was angry with myself too that I didn't just leave the party at that point, but I was determined that John wasn't going to ruin my night. Yeah, I'm sorry about that too. Anyway, he caught me in the hallway coming out of the bathroom and pushed me into one of the bedrooms and, well, you can imagine the rest. I'd never been in that situation before where someone was trying to basically harm me and no one there tried to help me. They probably would have thought that I wanted it because they always saw John with you and me together. That maybe I was just fooling around on you while you were away playing football. Well, it's good to know that you can defend yourself at least. I hope he still feels the pain to this day. So what about your story? Well, I met my ex Simon when we were both at college in our sophomore year. We started dating, and we got engaged about a year after we left college. We got married about 2 years after that. So, you were dating for a few years before getting engaged. Then it took a few years before you married. Why did it take you guys so long to tie the knot? I don't know. I like to think now that perhaps we both knew it wasn't meant to be or something. That maybe we were settling for what we had at the time. You loved him though, right? Yeah, in the beginning. But probably like your relationship, we started slowly drifting apart with each year we were together. I think we finally got married because we were trying to save our relationship in the end, also with all the pressure from our family and friends as well. We only lasted about 6 months, the marriage I mean. So what went wrong? Did you guys just decide to end it? No, he lost his job, then didn't like his new job. He was drinking more, then he started getting angry. Really? Did he start becoming violent? First it was verbal, then a few pushes and shoves. By that stage I was ready to leave. Then he hit me one night when we argued. I can't even remember what it was about, but he came home drunk and angry, then just started on me like I was there to take out his frustrations on until he ended up hitting me. It was late, so I demanded he sleep on the couch that night. Then the next morning he started on me again. Then he hit me again. That was it. Did you go to the police? Guys that hit women will usually do it again. They need it on their records, so when the next woman complains, they'll know. Yeah, I did. I got a restraining order placed on him, and he was forced to move out. I haven't seen him since that day. Well, I'm sorry you had to go through that, both with John and Simon. I hope your other boyfriends treated you well. You're my only other boyfriend, and you've treated me well so far. So you never dated anyone else in college until you met Simon? Surely there would have been guys after you the whole time. There was, but I was still getting over you at the time. I didn't want to go out on dates or anything. I just focused on my studies and hung out with my friends. They're the ones that were pushing me to start dating the following year. I was getting a lot of nun references. Mother Madeline was a favorite. I chuckled at that, and Maddie hit me with a pillow. Tell me, Joe, do you think that you'll ever forgive John for what happened? He is your twin brother after all. No, I can't see that ever happening. Even forgetting for a moment about Susie or you. It's that he would do that to me, that he betrayed my trust like that. I've thought about this a lot since Susie left, that even though he was my twin brother, we were never good friends. Maybe if we were identical twins, it could have been different, but we're nothing alike. He was always there with me, but I never enjoyed hanging out with just him. We would always be with other people. And my friends who are girls, he would try to have for himself. Looking back, I realized that I never really liked him at all, that if he wasn't my brother, I wouldn't have been friends with him. What's that saying, Joe? That you can choose your friends, but not your family. Yeah, but it's hard when your family is always there with your friends. Mom and Dad expected me to take him everywhere with me, to always include him. I don't know why he never wanted to do his own thing, have his own friends. That's a big part of why I joined the Air Force. I could finally be free of him. Well, you're free of him now. Let's go to bed, Joe. I need to snuggle for a while. Hold on, you said we should talk about this stuff so we could learn from it. What exactly did we learn? Don't fall in love with crappy people, I guess. Is that it? That we made bad choices about the people we loved? That, and never settle for second best, maybe. Okay, I can go with that. Well, I'm going to take my first choice, the best ever girl to bed then. Maddie leaned in and hugged, then stood and held out her hand, leading me to the bedroom. The next few weeks went much the same as the last few, but I was now struggling to remember what life was like before I was back with Maddie. I felt so at ease with my life. Maybe this is what being truly happy and in love is like. Maddie came with me last weekend to have lunch at my parents', with both my mom and dad delighted to see her again. They were also glad to see how happy I was, that I had moved on from Susie. This week I had moved all my stuff into Maddie's place. As we were basically living together at this point already, it just seemed pointless for us to be paying for rent twice. It was still a bit under 6 months since I legally separated from Susie and filed for divorce. However, Maddie's divorce had just been finalized some 8 months after filing, so hopefully I only had a few months to go as well. Mom's 50th birthday was on Thursday, but they had arranged a birthday party to begin late Saturday afternoon at Mom and Dad's place. A lot of family and friends were attending, some 60+ guests in all. This was going to be one of the occasions where it would be impossible to not see John and Susie without it hurting my mom if I chose not to show up. I decided I wasn't going to let them dictate my relationship with my parents. As we got dressed for the party, I looked over at Maddie and she took my breath away. The dress she wore was not too revealing, a little understated if anything, but it accentuated the beautiful curves of her body. She also had her hair up with intricate braids like I had not seen before. She looked demure but absolutely stunning at the same time. I walked up behind her and wrapped my arms around her waist as I stared into her eyes via the mirror. Wow, you look great. I want you all to myself when you're looking this good. Maybe we should show up late. I can think of a few ways we could spend the afternoon. Stop at Joe, we'll have plenty of time to be alone after the party. Besides, I'm doing all this for you. Doing what? Being the most beautiful girl at the party? Yep, I want to make sure Susie knows how much you don't miss her, and for John to want what he can never have. All this just to make them jealous? I want to make sure they know that we're the main attraction, and they're just extras. You can be both naughty and nice at the same time. For you, I'd be whatever you need me to be. I bent down and hugged Maddie. I was so fortunate to have her in my life. Besides, you look great too. I'm happy you let me pick out some new clothes for you. You can't wear a t-shirt and jeans all the time. I thought I looked good in a t-shirt and jeans? You do, but look at you now with the blazer and trousers. You could be a male model or a famous actor. I do need to fix your hair up before we go though. I want you looking perfect. We arrived at Mom and Dad's place at about 4 p.m., and there were already a good number of people here. The party was being held in the backyard where a large gazebo had been set up. As we made our way through the house, greeting my cousins and extended family along the way, we ran into Mom coming out of the kitchen. She stopped in her tracks when she saw us, giving us both a big smile, then greeting us with hugs. "Oh my, you two look straight out of a daytime TV romance show. You both look absolutely gorgeous." "You look great too, Mom. Beautiful for a woman that's not a day over 40. "Oh, stop it, Joe. Is that how you managed to get such a beautiful woman like Maddie here?" "That's not the half of it, Betty. Your son can be quite smooth when it comes to sweet talking, but he always means it." That's another thing he gets from his father. Bill was always quite the charmer as well. "Well, happy birthday, Betty." "Yes, Mom, happy birthday, and I hope this party is one to remember." As I handed Mom her birthday present and gave her a hug. "Thanks, the both of you." "Joe, both Susie and John are outside. Is that going to be a problem?" "Not for us. This is your night, so enjoy." While I had no intention of causing any issues at Mom's birthday party, I had no intention of speaking with John or Susie either. We made our way out to the backyard, with Dad spotting us and making his way towards us both. "Hey Joe, hey Maddie." "Woo, you look fantastic, Maddie. How my son ever convinced you to fall in love with him again is a mystery to me." As Dad shook my hand and gave Maddie a hug. "I don't know, Bill. Your son is a very attractive man. Maybe he gets that from his father." "Beautiful and smart. You've done well, Joe." "Yeah, I have." "Mom looks great for her birthday. She looks really happy." "You know your mom? Most of it's a front. She's been preparing and stressing over this party for the last few weeks. But I do hope she can actually relax soon and start having a good time." "I hope so too, Dad." "Joe, your brother and Susie are over there. Are you okay with that?" "Yeah, as long as they don't come over and start talking to us, it should be all good." "All right, I'll let them know to leave. You guys be okay?" "Fine." We mingled with the other guests. Most were relatives or friends of my parents. Some I knew, some not so well. Everyone seemed to know who I was though. Perhaps with my height and build I was hard to miss. Most of the guests complimented Maddie, commenting on how beautiful she is. At one point Maddie went into the kitchen to help Mom bring out more food, and I noticed Susie follow her. I shook my head. Susie has no idea who she's dealing with if she has words with Maddie. A few minutes later, Susie came out of the house, looking a little upset. She went over to John, and I could see them having a discreet argument. Then Susie walked away from him, taking a seat on her own away from where John was standing. Mom, Maddie, and one of my aunts then carried some trays with food from the house to the gazebo. I was watching Maddie as she looked over at John, then back at me with a slight mischievous smile on her face. Goodness, I love this woman. After Maddie had helped with the food, she strolled over to me with a look of confidence and, dare I say, satisfaction across her face. "You have been mischievous, haven't you?" I whispered quietly as Maddie stood by my side. "You have no idea. I'm dying to know what happened though. I'll tell you when we get home. Just enjoy how uncomfortable Susie and John will be for the rest of the night." I looked at Maddie, unable to hide my smile as I hugged her softly. "As soon as my divorce is finalized, I'm going to marry you. I don't want an engagement, I just want to marry you as soon as I can. Are you going to at least ask me if I'd like to marry you first?" "I will. I'll get down on my knee and do the works. I'll even serenade you if that helps." "I'm looking forward to it, Joe." "Not sure about your singing though. It's probably the one thing you're not great at." "All right, I'll hire someone then." As I chuckled with Maddie. Maddie was right. Susie and John barely talked for the rest of the evening, and when they did, there was clear hostility in Susie's expressions towards him. I don't think of myself as a spiteful person at all, but I have to admit it was wonderful. I later ventured into the house to go to the restroom. As I was leaving, John was standing outside the door waiting for his turn. His face had apprehension written across it as I stepped towards him, He moved to the side to make way. I gave him a disapproving glare as I walked past, shaking my head slightly. That was the only interaction I had with John for the entire evening. After the party, I drove Maddie back to her apartment, which was really now our apartment. I was itching to hear the details of the conversation between Maddie and Susie. But Maddie made me wait, instead insisting that we go take a shower together. As we stepped into the shower with the warm water washing over us, I turned to face Maddie, looking down at her beautiful face and wonderful body. My goodness, she belongs in a painting or a large framed photo hanging on the wall. So do you want to know what happened at the party? I nodded my head yes. Well, I went into the kitchen to prepare some of the food trays with your mom, but she had to go to the ladies first. So I was in the kitchen alone when Susie came in and stood beside me, starting to place food on one of the trays. Maddie put her head on my chest as she continued the story. Susie started by speaking to me. So, you're Joe's new girlfriend? Well, I'm his wife, Susie. Soon-to-be ex-wife, you mean? Besides, I'm not Joe's new girlfriend. I'm Maddie, Joe's first girlfriend, the first girl he ever fell in love with, and soon-to-be wife. I think that surprised her a little. And? Surely that can't be all, Maddie? Who's telling this story, Joe? Maddie continued. I do have to thank you, Susie, for giving up such a wonderful guy like Joe for a little worm like John. You made it possible for Joe and me to fall back in love. Joe's already broken it off with you once. What makes you think he won't do it again? Joe didn't break up with me last time. I left him because he didn't believe me that his darling brother would try to steal his girlfriend. John has a history of that, you know. Wanting whatever Joe has, his friends, his girlfriends, his wife. John's good at getting what he wants. He didn't get me. I'd never stoop that low. He did try to force himself on me, physically. Such a lovely guy you've got there. Seriously, you'd better watch him when he's had too much to drink or is angry. Those sorts of guys can't handle rejection. She looked at me for a few moments before she left the kitchen. I know that look, Joe. It's like she knew the kind of guy John really is. I think maybe he's been abusive with her already, maybe not physically yet, but I think she understood. That would explain their argument when she came back out to John. She didn't want to be near him the rest of the night after that. I bet he's been a manipulative jerk to her already, to get her to do what she did. Most likely, John could be very different when you weren't there. It's like just your presence kept him in check. He could be a real conniving jerk when you weren't around, though. It shows how well you can know someone. Why didn't any of you tell me that he was like that? What, tell you your twin brother that you love is a complete jerk that most likely despises you? Besides, he was always there when you were around. It was almost impossible for our friends to talk to you about him when he's always right there. I didn't want to, because I was worried you wouldn't believe me. Until that party, at least. And even then, I was proven right. You didn't believe me. Yeah, I can't believe I didn't see through his nonsense. I was so naive. No, Joe, you're just a decent person that wants to see the best in people. Don't ever change that because of him. Maddie turned off the shower and grabbed the towels. Story time's over. Let's go to bed. Besides, I have something else I need to tell you. I quickly dried myself and followed Maddie into the bedroom, snuggling with her under the sheets. So what was the other thing you needed to tell me? Want to guess? Okay, that I'm the best partner you've ever had. Well, yes, but that's not the answer. That you can't wait to marry me. Again, yes, but not the answer. That you're the most gorgeous woman I've ever laid my eyes on. Come on, Joe, stop playing. I took a moment, feeling her breath against my face as we laid together in the dark. All right then, I'm guessing you're pregnant. Yes, I hugged Maddie slowly. It seemed to last forever. So? Well, lucky I don't want an engagement then, isn't it? Can't have you walking down the aisle looking all expecting. How far along are you? Not far. I went into the doctor's for tests this week to confirm. You're not annoyed, are you, that we didn't get to talk about it first? I was switching my birth control. That's how I think it happened. No, I'm thrilled, truly. I can't wait to be married to you, to buy our own home, to have 4 kids running around. 4. Hold on, I want to keep my figure, you know. I'm sure you'll be the most beautiful mom on the PTA, the fittest parent in the Bay Area. You say the sweetest things, Joe. Yeah, I love you, Maddie. I love you too, Joe. My divorce got finalized less than 2 months later, about 7 months after I had separated from Susie. Maddie and I got married 2 weeks later, a small affair with family and friends. Bethany and Kyra were her bridesmaids, Joe and Mike my best men. We did buy a house in San Bruno, requiring quite a bit of renovation work, but my dad and the guys from work helped me a lot. My son Mason was born 6 months after Maddie and I were married. Maddie is pregnant again with our second child. The scans showed that it's a healthy baby girl. My mom and dad are happy grandparents now. They still run the family business, but without John or Susie. Susie left John a few months after I was married again. I heard from my parents that she had a restraining order out on my brother and had moved back to the Midwest to her family. Maddie was right. He did end up getting violent with her. That was a line too far for my parents. They forced him out of the business. He's still a silent partner like myself, but he works for another contractor now, somewhere in San Jose. As for me and Maddie, well, Dad was right. It did all work out for the best. We couldn't be any happier, and Maddie is still the love of my life.